Hey guys, welcome back to the Alpha Artist Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works. My name is David DCM, creative director, lead writer. Joined as always by my co-host Ben.
Hello.
See, last week or the week before, you made like a joke that didn't play in the audio episode because you waved
Because I waved.
when I introduced you. What did you do with my...
Yeah.
No, it's hiding behind my blue drink.
It's right there, boy.
Yeah, and when I was editing it, because I edit the audio first, I was like, what
You're
the
like-
fuck happened? Like, did we like lose that audio? But you, Ben, waved.
Classic.
So that's why you got to peep the video podcast. And this week, Ben, we're talking about the imagery of American gods.
Oh boy.
Now,
Something
there's
that
only...
isn't storytelling.
Yeah, well, I've got a very specific element of this I want to talk about, but also,
Right.
there's only 3 episodes out at the time of recording.
Yeah.
And did you get a chance to watch through the whole of the third one?
I'm all,
so
I'm
we'll-
up to date, boy.
So we will probably spoil those 3 episodes.
Yeah, not much happens.
Yeah, but it's more about like the themes and the way that
Yeah.
things play out. But what I specifically want to kind of like get into, and then we can kind of talk about the show as a whole, is I want to kind of look at, there's some really interesting stuff they do with the camera angles and the imagery and the special effects to kind of convey the way that the characters are seeing the world without having like narration or having them like tell you what they're thinking.
Yeah, it's all a bit funky and janky and
And I
Kinda weird.
guess one of the parts of that too is that, and I mean, I guess, did you know anything about this going into it, or you're like completely cold?
I have no idea what it is.
So,
I have zero reference.
like, the question of what is the show about is kind of, I think that's the thrust of the book as well. Like so I've read the book a while ago. I don't really.
There's a book.
It's fuzzy. Yeah, Neil Gaiman. It's written by Neil Gaiman. The
Right.
whole thing is based off a book by Neil Gaiman,
Okay.
and the book is very much. It's very much a similar tone. Like it's kind of like this weird, like surreal, dreamlike thing where just like weird esoteric shit happens,
Yeah.
and
which
you're
is
like, she just
probably-
pulled the moon out of the sky. What?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of that.
It's probably about how I'd describe the show as well. Just weird esoteric shit happens.
And have you worked out how the different stories connect together? It's sort of like a Game
Not
of
at
Thrones kind of
all.
thing where there's like 4 or 5 different storylines happening
I mean,
at the
there's
same time.
I'm kind of I'm assuming that it's written from it's like it's doing some like Lemony Snicket shit where there's like a writer because of the
okay.
opening like somewhere in America thing.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that
I don't know.
because you do keep seeing scenes from that and like writing over the top of the show.
Yeah, it's like there's 2 sides of the show. There's like the story, but then every now and then and in every episode it's kind of different. It'll cut to like some weird shit
Just
happening.
an esoteric piece of
Yeah,
like in
and
one of them
it's-
it's just a lady who dies.
Yeah, and like gets taken away by death.
And you're like, what does this have to do
You're
with
like,
the
cool.
show?
There's like the first episode's got like basically the succubus with boobs. And
She's in the first 2, I think.
She's in the first 2, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she eats people with her vagina, and they
fucking hella rad.
fly into the ether, and she
Yeah,
like
they're
grows.
in like a void space.
I was like watching it. I was like, this is definitely a fetish.
It's super weird.
Like, right? Like,
And like I mean that, and then you've also got the djinn who fucks people and
Has-
becomes them. Maybe
yeah,
it's like hard to tell, but the other guy that he became didn't have glowing eyes, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, or it's like the other guy fucked the gin, and then I don't know.
Yeah, it's
they
like,
had
again,
sex, and there was
it's
a
like-
penis.
Who knows what's happening? There's a lot of dick.
There's
in
a lot
this
of
show.
penis in this show.
But I think what's cool, and just from like from a dialogue perspective, I want to get into some of the way that they kind of manipulate the cameras and stuff to do some really clever shit. But one of the
Sure.
things that I think is really good in the first episode is there's that scene by the grave where the other partner of the guy who died in the car crash is like drunk, and she's just like
She's like trying to go down to the
yeah,
burn zone.
and it's really
Yeah.
well. I think that scene is really well written and really well like it plays out really well because you're like
You know exactly what's going to happen
And
the
at this-
moment she arrives.
yeah.
You're like, ugh.
and at the same time as Shadow starts to get annoyed with her. Sorry, at the same time you start to get annoyed with what's happening. He starts
Yeah.
to get annoyed, and then she breaks down, and it's like
Yeah.
timed perfectly where you don't get sick of.
You don't get sick of what's happening, but at the same
Because
time,
a part of you is like he might just vindictively fuck this. Like it might,
yeah,
you know, like because he's this kind of guy who's got nothing really worth living for.
He just came
might
out of
do this.
prison. He's probably
Horny
kind
as
of,
fuck.
yeah, horny as fuck.
Horny as fuck.
Yeah.
We don't know that he's not bisexual though, so he could have been getting some of that sweet. Oh, he's married, but hey, polyamory, do your thing.
Yeah,
Do your thing,
just
Shadow.
bone anything. It's fine.
Go to Bone Town whenever you can. Get on the bus to Bone Town.
I mean, he kissed a virgin, so I mean,
He did.
it's basically the same thing.
There is some weird. So okay, that brings me to a really interesting part of the show. There is like some weird shit that happens that you're not sure if it's real or not, and that's one of my favorite things about the way they filmed it. there isn't like a stylistic
Yeah.
difference between stuff that could be dreams and stuff that's real. So like,
well, I mean,
you know when the guy has the hammer and the hammer starts bleeding.
yeah.
You're like, is Shadow
don't-
imagining that, or is it really happening?
Yeah.
And then
Well,
what?
Shadow references. He's like, your hammer is like bleeding, and you're like,
It
so
definitely happened.
So Shadow is seeing it, but like,
But
is
if-
everyone else seeing it?
And
Like,
then the question is like, is he delusional? But does it matter at the end of the day if everyone else can see? Like, it's such a weird like complex they're setting up where you're
Yeah.
not really sure what's real.
there's like they set up like, in the first episode they set up like a villain in like that weird kid in the robotic limo who vapes like
Oh
yeah frog juice.
Techno Boy. Or
Yeah,
just
but then it's
Technology
like,
Boy.
and then he gets lynched arbitrarily, and then doesn't get.
Well, he doesn't get lynched. That's like the Techno Boys people out of the. That's them lynching him.
Yeah,
That's
he
the-
gets,
that's the Techno
he
Boys
gets
ally.
lynched.
Mm.
But then like something cuts all of them, and
You
the
don't know what
rope-
it is.
and it's like
And
okay.
it probably wasn't Mr. Wednesday. And it's like, who's protecting him? We
Well,
don't know
it's-
yet.
Yeah, it's everything about
And then
it.
you've got the
is just-
leprechaun story, who it's like,
I mean,
what is he about?
He's a leprechaun.
I mean, he's crazy. I fucking
Right?
love him.
I think he's
love
really
his
good.
accent. Yeah.
But yeah, he's a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Cool.
But
Like,
they don't
I-
do this thing where like, he's a leprechaun, he's so magical. He's just this guy
He's
who's
just
like
a
real
leprechaun.
mad and drunk all the time.
Oh, he's a leprechaun.
Yeah. And it's like,
I think like this is kind of like what I'm grasping from the series, but it seems to be like just the premise is gods exist, or like everything that's fiction is real. Because like
right. Well, but the thing is not, well, it's like, the idea is like all of it could be real, but doesn't necessarily mean it is. And that's why it gets really mind trippy later on. Because then you're like, is this thing that I'm seeing real, or is this
yeah,
fake? And then who are the new people that are coming in, like these technology people, and like
Yeah.
the woman in the TV, what she got to do with Mr.
yeah, it's like
Wednesday, and
Shirley
the old,
Temple or whoever the fuck.
and these sort of older gods,
not
these
Shirley
older
Temple.
god characters. No, but like these older characters, what's their relationship there, and like what's this war that Mr. Wednesday's planning, and what does that have to do with anyone?
Yeah,
And like, how did Shadow make snow? Like, there's all these questions that just sort of, and it's like, did he, or was that just Mr. Wednesday? Like,
Yeah.
it's this thing of, and that's kind of cool because then what you end up doing is you end up focusing on what you're seeing to try and decide if it's real or not, and then they do this fucking cool thing where, as you're focusing in on what you're seeing, they manipulate what you're seeing to make it feel more dreamlike.
yeah, I
So
think
they do a lot of like macro lens shots of really close up stuff.
Yeah. I think the thing that like tipped me off fairly early that this was going to be a bit odd was like the series opened with like probably the most confusing and like hardcore opening ever. Like when they were like the Viking people, when they just started like attacking each other, I was just like, oh, that's a lot of
It's a lot-
jello blood.
A lot of blood.
It's a lot of jello blood.
Real,
It's
like,
really
violent,
hardcore. Yeah, but like that, I was like, okay, sure, and then that ended. But then it opened with them in the prison, and like they were, the dialogue was like they were from a fucking Shakespeare play.
Mm.
Like, it was like watching philosophy majors.
And then you get that clash with like how he talks. See, what I think is cool is like they have like these very like eloquent conversations, but then the other guy who he's with, whose name I keep forgetting, will pop up periodically in the series with these like bizarre things that he's told Shadow that don't make a lot of sense out of context, but turn out to be super useful. Like the airport thing. That's such a good scene.
him, yeah,
That's such a good scene.
Yeah, I
where
like that
he's
guy.
He's at the airport and it's like Shadow tries to make it like this lesson about life, and he's like, no, just don't fuck with them bitches at the airport.
Mm.
And it's a cool way of like hanging a lampshade on the fact that this is quite like high concept.
I hope they
dialogue
put more
wise.
of that prison guy because
I think he's in the books a bit, but I don't know what they're gonna do with
they
it.
kind of just skimmed over him in the first episode.
I'm sure we'll come back.
Yeah,
Because there'll be lessons, but that's such a like clever moment where you're like, yeah, he's kind of got a point. Like airports are one of those things where that person at the desk has complete control over you. And that's kind of, I think, why with the checkers game and the way that they cast the guy that he plays against, whose name I can't remember.
yeah,
And the way that they like
McFreaky boy.
the way that they focus in on his
It's the guy from Resident Evil 7.
yeah,
It's literally him.
it's so creepy. And the way that they like contrast his detail with like Shadow and Mr. Wednesday is so interesting. So like when you first meet him, he's kind of like you see him kill a cow with
the hammer.
the gun. No, you see him kill him with the gun thing,
Oh yeah, that.
and that's the first thing you see. And it's like in a field in the middle of nowhere. And then
Yeah.
you cut to him in the house.
I was like really confused for the longest time. I thought the house was a hut in the middle of a field,
Yeah.
So then when it cut to like,
Well, that's kind of the idea. Because if he's going to the farm every day, how's he getting there?
yeah,
Is the farm inside the house? Does the house have a door to the farm? Is there like a
I
portal?
was so confused because I was like, oh, this house is out in the farm, but then like episode 3, these like they go outside. It's Chicago.
Yeah.
I was
and
like,
it's like
what?
it's one of those weird
When?
things where you're like, did they
just fuck up or was this intentional?
Definitely intentional. Like, this is a show where everything is intentional.
It's
And that's
just so
kinda cool.
odd.
And like, so with some of the imagery that they leverage really heavily, like his smoking is really
Oh my
interesting.
god, he smokes heavy.
Because he smokes a lot of like
he'll light a cigarette and go like, and it's just gone. You're like that's
he smokes so heavily to the point where it cannot be accidental that he smokes that much.
yeah.
But it also can't just be that they were like, oh, he's a bad guy, he's got to be a chain smoker. Like, there's got to be something to that because of the way that they frame it.
I mean, there are bits where he's literally like the end of the cigarette is like bright yellow.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen.
no, and it's like
you're just chugging down fire, dude.
And, like, maybe
it's
he is.
actually insane.
it might not be like cigarettes. They might be like rolled up something else that he's smoking.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
just
it's fucking bonkers.
yeah, it's crazy. And then like
the
the
dude
checkers
smokes
game.
like a fucking like a garden hose going backwards,
Like a backwards garden hose.
like a vacuum cleaner, I guess.
What
Yeah.
a good metaphor. You should
Yeah.
read the book.
like a backwards garden hose.
I guess something else too that really fascinates me about that whole sequence is the way that Shadow gets out of that, getting killed, murdered horribly. Well, he
Yeah.
doesn't really get out of it, but
I mean, yeah,
the way that plays out, that's like a really good, like, that feels like that's pretty ominous of things to come with the way that Mr. Wednesday is trying to deal with these new people, like these newer gods or whatever.
sure.
Like, it felt like the minute that Shadow's like, you're just playing the same fucking game. Like, I've got this.
Yeah,
He must have, like, and that's the thing, like, he must have known, because in prison, see, this is where I think it's interesting, is if you think about it for a little bit, Shadow would have been really good at checkers in prison because you get to play the same people over and over.
He played chess in prison.
Right.
They say that he played chess in
okay.
prison. Not checkers.
But then maybe he's just a
checkers is just a bad version of chess.
He's just a smart boy. But yeah, so like that's a cool way of doing it, where it's like this guy's really good at doing this one thing, and he's also really good at doing this one thing with the hammer, and that's all he's ever been good at.
yeah.
And it's like that kind of is indicative of why I think Mr. Wednesday is interested in Shadows, because it's like he needs someone with utility and flexibility and like intelligence.
I mean, I've just been following the story. I have no fucking clue what's happening.
It's great. Like, it's crazy that you can get 3 episodes in and you're like, I don't know
you're
what's
like,
going
I don't
on,
know what's going
but I
on.
want to see next week.
There's like a lot of penis, so I mean,
There's so much dick.
I think the first episode when they were just like, by the way, there's going to be penis in this show. I was like, oh, okay. Like, they'd already shown the boobs, and I was like, all right, boobs, whatever. You know, it's a fucking TV show.
Fucking
boobs.
Amazon Prime.
And then it's like, oh, that's a penis.
it's a dick. There's a lot of dick.
Cool. There's a lot
There's
of penis.
just a big old engorged dick.
I think
on
the
a phone.
funniest thing was, in the first episode, it's like the big old penis on the phone. And he's like, gross. And he puts the phone away. And they
And it
put it.
appears in the thing.
It's like, it's
So
like,
clever.
do you just want us to like be sure we saw it?
Well, I think it's
Like you cover your child's eyes when you see it, and you're like, oh, okay, it's gone. And it's just there. You're like, tainted.
Well, that's exactly what that. That's exactly what that is, right? So, like, the exact thing you've described is what they did because they wanted you to feel what he felt.
They wanted you
Right?
to see the
Because Shadow's
penis.
like, fuck, and then his brain is like, it brings
Put
the
it
image back,
away,
and you
but it's like,
physically
nah.
see it in the
Yeah.
show. So that's like one of the small things they do where they communicate what he's thinking and feeling without having him be like, ugh, dick.
Penis.
And like,
I don't like penis.
it's
I like vagina.
so smart the way that they do that with him, where like he'll look like he was looking at when he goes up on the fire escape and he looks out into the stars or whatever, and there's
Yeah.
like this giant like different sky,
Yeah.
and you're like, what the
It's
fuck
like a
is
sky
that?
in the sky, and you're like, what the fuck?
And as this person's talking, he's still looking up, so your camera's still like looking up,
Yeah.
and then you finally pan down when he finally like draws his attention back. There's just like some real like the way that it's been like the cinematography is so tactile.
Yeah, because it's all from the perspective of the show's basically from his perspective,
Except the random esoteric.
except
Sequences.
it's not.
There's little
but it's like
vignettes.
most of it is kind of filmed from his perspective.
Yeah.
So like when they're doing like robbing from the bank, like that's all from Shadow's perspective instead
Yeah.
of Mr. Wednesday.
Yeah.
And like you never see what Mr. Wednesday does
Outside of
Shadow. You just get glimpses of it, like boobs and pizza. Apparently, that was pretty funny.
good combo.
Hell yeah.
Ben just did finger guns for our audio listeners.
Cool to all those people who listen to this.
More people than watch the video.
Oh, that's good. You're missing
In
out.
fact, it's almost exactly 100 times more. I think.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like because it's all from his perspective and
Yeah.
he has no fucking idea what's going on. We don't either.
Yeah,
which is
you end
good
up in
fun.
this like weird bewildered kind of
Yeah,
like...
but it's like I want to watch more because it's a lot of penis in there.
And it's also like...
It's also pretty engaging.
It
Helps
so,
that it's interesting.
Yeah, it's so weirdly interesting. Like, that's the thing. I think that's why...
I think part of me just wants to see more of the old gods.
Yeah, you
I
want to
want
be like...
I want to see more of them because they seem really interesting. Like you have like again basically a succubus. You have like the death, but like the Egyptian death.
So here's my
which was
question.
cool.
Do you think he's the only death?
No. I
Is
think
that-
what they're doing is that it's the idea of every religion is valid.
Every religion's right. yeah.
Every religion is correct, and she just happened to be more aligned with that
Yeah, I think that's the
that
idea.
death's faith.
Yeah.
Um,
They also did a really cool thing where when she was dead, she was able to actually like interact with
yeah,
the physical
manipulate
world.
herself. Yeah, I thought that was
That was kind of... She
was
could only,
like,
she
I
could
mean-
only manipulate herself, though, I think. No, and the food. She picked up the food.
yeah. She gave the food to him.
It's kind of cool, because like that...
She also did leave behind her apron. She took her apron off and left it on the table. I was like,
There's
like,
two of those.
what's that gonna do?
I assume that would...
Please explain this. They
I'm
won't.
concerned that someone's
They
gonna be
will
like,
not
"They've
explain it."
cloned the aprons. They go, the police get there, they're like, there's two aprons.
This is just like there's two aprons and the food's being eaten.
Maybe it was a ghost?
Maybe it was a ghost.
Ghost? They're probably gonna be ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that like it's all ridiculous and batshit insane, but because it's all of the same level of insanity, none of it feels like ridiculous.
Well, I mean even like
You know what I
the Jin story. Where he's
Yeah.
like sitting there for like 6 hours waiting for the job interview. It's like no one does that. Like that's not a thing.
And then I had to be like, is he?
I like that where it's like he looks at the time and it's like 11:30 and he like sits there for a bit, looks at the time, it's 6:00.
Mm.
It's just like done.
Yeah, we did the thing. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Or it's like it like skips to 1:00 and he's like, and then it pans
They put the
along
wall.
to 6.
They put the clock on the wall. Like they made the wall into the clock for that
Yeah.
sequence, which was kind of cool. And I was like, was there something wrong with him beforehand? Because like, was he like enchanted by the djinn before that?
Yeah,
because
because
I feel like no one would sit still for that long. But then maybe he.
Well, I think
I
there
don't
was like
know.
weirdly implied things like when he was walking there and there was like the guy who was like, "Hey, watch it." At first I thought it was like the origin story of the leprechaun or something.
Okay.
Like maybe he got turned ginger. Don't shoot me for saying that. But like something like that. But I was like, nah, it's definitely
It's just
like
weird.
a different person who
And-
just
Yeah, and then like he just. It was weird. He was like.
just has sex with the.
He just butt fucked a dude and then became
Yeah,
him, maybe?
like,
was
why?
But then it was like, was the other guy.
I feel like we
a
need to
genie-
know what a djinn is to like fully understand.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like it's actually a thing that like part of the story is like they're kind of like succubus.
Yeah, well, I think so. Like they
I feel like
tempt you.
there's a lot of sex based gods.
Well, that's one of the big things that Neil Gaiman
Yeah.
kind of went for with like this. So a lot of his stuff is like he'll pick a particular thing and then like go into it in like a lot of depth.
Yeah,
So one of the things
I'm
that
gonna
he
look
did,
up a djinn.
yeah, look up a djinn. One of the things he's really good at is like taking an idea and extrapolating in an interesting way by doing like a lot of research, getting to like the core of whatever that thing is.
Yeah,
And that's like, you know, like the Graveyard Book does that. A lot of his Doctor Who episodes are very much like, let's interrogate this one thing. So they're always like hyper focused.
yeah.
So he was like, I'm going to interrogate how gods would work in America if they were real.
It's doesn't really explain what they are. They just thing. They're creatures of free will made from smokeless fire by God. Because humans were made from clay, apparently.
Good. I was
That's-
worried that
that's-
they weren't.
That's Islam.
Cool.
Cool.
Got him good.
Cultural appropriation.
They butt fucking become them also.
Yeah.
Which was I thought was pretty intense. And then
So I was actually watching this episode at university, so I had to. I was like, I should probably
it's a
skip this.
really long scene.
Yeah.
It
I went like a
keeps
minute
going.
forward and it was ending, and I was like, oh man.
I'd lost like 4 minutes. Like it's a long
Really?
scene. Yeah,
Jesus.
it's pretty long. Like a lot of it is just you're like, he's still fucking him from behind.
still boning.
He's still fucking him
Still
from
boning.
behind. He's doing
Okay.
it from a different angle. He's still fucking. So eventually I was like, come on, I'm getting bored.
Or come in.
Yeah, finish.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Pierce or get off the pot is what I'm saying. Don't pierce though.
Do not pee.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. There's something to me that like is so compelling about the way that they put it together. But I think it's a combination of like the writing is so good. Like it's because Neil Gaiman was.
It almost feels like Artemis Fowl.
It's got a bit of that kind of like
Yeah,
weird...
like because so my experience with Artemis Fowl is I went into the third book.
right.
So I was like, what the fuck?
What's this nonsense?
Like, what is this? But yeah, it has that kind of thing, except this is like the start. Where it's like
You're like, I don't know what's
like here's all this, here's just things happening. You're like, cool.
Well, what's cool about it in that regard is that instead of what normally happens, which is where they're like Game of Thrones, like their first episode, they're like, here's what a White Walker is. Here's what happens if you flee the Black Knights of the Watch. Here's what happens if...
Yeah.
Here's Eddard Stark. This is what
By
King's
the way,
Landing is.
we're gonna cut people's heads off in this series. Look forward to
That's
that.
pretty intense.
Yeah.
But like that whole thing, they're just like, it's just exposition. Whereas this is like, bang, you're in.
This
it's
is like
just-
zero exposition at all.
Which
yeah.
is so good because then what you do is you get engaged and invested, and then it's slowly you slowly unravel what the world is, and that only works because Shadow is he's an outsider.
Yeah.
So you follow with his understanding, and you're like the snow thing was so weird because he was like in this kind of almost hypnotic thing, and then
The
it
snow
snowed.
thing was like, I thought that was odd because he was actually going along with it. Like, given
I thought he was just entertaining
I
Mr.
think
Wednesday,
so.
and then
But
he
I
kinda-
think like given the character progression at that stage, in my mind I was like he would just be like, no, fuck off, I'm not thinking about snow. But you know, again, it's probably just a writing thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it's like, yeah, when he's like, I was thinking about snow. It's like,
well, he's probably thinking about snow because fucking Mr. Wednesday kept saying the word snow.
yeah.
Like it's that thing of even if he hadn't engaged with that insanity, it would have happened anyway.
Did you say Mr. Sunday?
I meant to say Mr. Wednesday. Mr. Sunday. Shout out to Mr. Sunday movies.
What do you What do you think of Mr. Wednesday, like as a character?
I gotta say, he's like a slightly older Sly Stallone. First of all,
A what?
Sylvester Stallone.
Right. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Without the mouth problems,
Yes,
he can talk.
he can speak gooder.
Yeah.
Um,
Speak good English,
speak
like.
good English, like mate. No, I think the portrayal of the way that they've done him, like he has this like.
Well,
he's mysterious.
Is he in the book?
Sorry,
Is he in the book?
I don't want to say because that'll
Alright, sure.
spoil something else.
That will spoil something. Okay.
It's complicated.
Okay.
So I thought what was cool is that the way that he's portrayed, he's mysterious without being aloof or like annoying about it.
Right.
You know, like one of the tropes in like TV is like whenever a character is like trying to be mysterious, like it feels like they're trying too hard to do that.
Yeah.
Where they're like-
wearing black and
Yeah, and
walking
it's
around
like
with trench coats. And
yeah, and it's like, oh, where are you from? My past is a secret.
yeah.
It's like, you know,
I don't talk to strangers.
I don't talk about
Yeah.
myself. Whereas he just very much is like, I'm not going to tell you if you don't need to know. And it plays off very much that he knows that Shadow isn't going to become invested unless there's something interesting to invest in.
Yeah.
So he kind of plays a bit of a background sort of role in giving Shadow the knowledge because he knows that if Shadow gets like a taste of this world, he's going to keep seeking it out.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to suck this guy further and further into his world.
Yeah. He just reminds me of my crazy American uncle.
Right.
Shout outs to
That is a
You.
reference that no one can understand because we don't know that person.
no, but I have an uncle who was crazy.
Gathered that from the previous sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just reminds me of
Oh,
him.
okay,
So
like
I
just
really
lots of
like him.
similarities.
It's just like a weird thing where I'm like,
He's really cool. He's like
is
he's
cool.
like the crazy uncle type. Like he
is.
really is.
He is the crazy uncle type.
And he's like the crazy uncle type that's like at 5 a.m. he's like, quick, grab the bottle of scotch.
Morty,
and
we
the,
gotta go.
the parents, yeah. Morty, we gotta go, Morty. We gotta go, Morty. It's definitely what that is. But it's like this kind of but he's like this older guy who there's definitely something going on with him, and he's like this like he's definitely got some powers, but again, everyone in this series, they're not like throwing fireballs.
Yeah, and they're not like pew pew laser fingers.
They're
They're
like,
like
Gotta pay.
they all know coin tricks, which was a thing in like the first episode, and then not a thing.
until
kind
it
of.
was a thing again.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that again. I don't know what the fuck it means.
I mean, the
But,
lucky
like,
coin
yeah, I mean the lucky coin. Yeah, that's because he's a
brought back
leprechaun.
Laura, and I was like, what the fuck?
She just got
Crazy
very lucky.
cliffhanger. And she also, how did she know which hotel room he was in?
also
like-
seeing that pole go through that guy's head,
Holy shit!
and then the blood like coming out of the middle of the pole. I was like, that's surprisingly accurate.
They didn't fuck around.
No,
They, you know,
the
like,
moment I saw like the pole come off, I was like, oh, here we go.
that happens so quickly too.
I know.
The AI
That dude
AI
was
guy.
a cult. That dude was a cult member as well.
How do you know that?
Because when he was like, "Oh, when you're up, I can talk to you about the something
No,
of the
it was-
project."
Yeah, it was Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you miss the context before that? Where he was like, I'm 11 years sober?
I mean, I picked up on that, but I took it as 11 years sober, and
No.
now I found Jesus.
Yeah, that's what Alcoholics Anonymous is. You give up to the higher power of God.
Wait, really? Alcoholics Anonymous is a cult?
It's, yeah, what are you talking? Of course it is.
You know, I got interested and I started researching.
That's why it doesn't work for most people.
Researching the Freemasons. Because apparently, if you have an engineering degree, you're automatically a Freemason. I was like, oh, I wonder what I would have gotten if I kept my engineering degree.
What would you have gotten?
I would have joined a cult
Nice.
because they're straight up a cult.
Yeah, no, Alcoholics Anonymous for people at home. It's not necessarily a cult.
Yeah,
but
I've heard of like
basically like the premise is that you
stop drinking with Jesus.
well, sort of, you stop drinking because you accept that you don't have any control of your life and you give up yourself to the higher power and the 12 steps.
Yeah,
It's
the 12 steps. Yeah.
The 12-step program, and it's so dangerous to people that have critical thinking. It's really good if you're like, I just need to stop and I can't deal with my life. It's really
So
good
I'm
for
gonna
those
let
people.
someone else take
But-
control for a bit.
Anyone that is like remotely self-aware, it just doesn't work and it just ruins you. Like, it's the worst thing ever. But so that's what he was. That's why that.
Okay,
So he was talking about the program, but like that's
so yes, still a cult.
different function.
It's not by definition a cult.
Functionally different, but very similar. But that sequence,
Spiritually funky still.
yeah, not great. And when that pole goes through his head, like the distance between that,
Yeah, that time when the pole goes through his face.
Well, like again, like the show isn't gratuitous all the time. When it is, like
when it is, it just dials it up.
and they
to
don't
11.
they don't pull back.
And they don't pull back
anything.
at all.
I'm at some point I'm afraid to see someone get shot because it's going to be horrific.
I mean, when he's getting lynched and then those guys all get cut in half and it literally starts raining blood.
That's
That's
pretty
like
intense. And when he's getting hung, they just show him getting hung.
Yeah.
When he's getting hanged, and you're
he
like,
flat out just gets
oh,
lynched and you're
shit.
like, oh,
like every other show would be
they're
like
lynched. Every
they'd
other show would show
like,
the
his-
legs.
Yeah, but they're just
They're
like,
just
no, he's
straight
getting
up.
hung.
They're
He's
just
getting
straight
hanged,
up
like,
lynching
by his
him.
neck.
You're like, oh,
It's fucking
fun.
crazy. Like, but that stuff it makes it so engaging because it's no one else is doing it in that. Like,
Yeah.
and it's dialed to 11, but it's not inauthentic.
Mm.
And I think that's why it doesn't feel like they're trying to have you on by being like, we got blood, we got tits, we got dicks. It's just like we've got this interesting story, and for it to be told properly, it needs to feel real.
I'm waiting to just see a full out just like spread vagina.
It's gonna happen. It's gotta
Will
happen.
it though?
Although I don't know if you can.
Because there's this thing happening
you
where
can't show
like
erect dick and you can't show spread vagina. You can show vagina, but you can't show. Insides.
I mean, they show like the succubus character. They show her from like a top down angle, and like she's not like there's no like convenient censorship. It's just pubic hair.
Yeah.
But like that's different.
Yeah, I don't think you can show the inside lady bits. I don't think you can show an erect dick in motion. I think that's like
an
how
erect
American
dick
census-
in motion.
Well, like, you can show a picture.
So you
of
can
it.
show the picture
Yeah.
of it. This is the big
I honestly
old dog
think that's how American censorship works because Americans are insane.
in motion.
They're like you can have a dude.
No, and it's just like, what frame of reference? What if I'm moving my head while
if-
the dong is going in and out?
Yeah.
Is it still moving then?
A very.
Is that still a dong in motion?
I see what you. If I'm looking at a picture in a car, how does that work?
Yeah.
Um,
if the train is going 99%,
The train is going
speed of
90
light,
no.
and someone is
South-
thrusting
someone's
into
thrusting a
it, how
dick into it.
fast is their penis going?
Oh Jesus! Like, we've gotten to that point. We did pretty well up until then.
yeah.
It was like a pretty good episode. No, I just think this is a good example of when you can take a format like these like exclusive shows for these exclusive services, and
mean,
it gives you the freedom.
Look, I'm a little disappointed that it's on Amazon Prime Video because like. What
nothing
the fuck?
on Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
Video.
like what the fuck? I would, like if it was on Netflix, hell yeah.
I've been watching Red Oaks though.
Because then it would all be out. It wouldn't be.
Actually, I
every
gotta be
week.
honest. I don't mind one episode a week.
It means we
It
don't
suits
have
my
to do it all.
lifestyle also.
Suits mine as well, because I don't have to fucking...
That's why I quite liked Riverdale, because I could just pick up the 40 minutes every week, which was quite nice. But I don't know, I just think it's another great example of when like you can take a really good source material and do something genuinely
Especially
interesting
when you're
with it.
not beholden to, like, getting on TV.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
not,
have just dick and boobs everywhere. It's great.
and you can do stuff like you can have a 4-minute sex scene because it suits that moment.
Yeah, and you can have, like, Vikings, like, killing each other because...
And you can do stuff that even
can
that
do
isn't,
that
like,
anyway,
even
but-
that wouldn't get censored, but stuff that people wouldn't like on TV, which is
like lynching
well, like lynching. I was thinking more like,
and gay sex.
well, no, because
That's like
no, I
that's
was-
impressive.
No, because that I think people like there are a lot of people that would be fine with that. But what I was thinking specifically is like a lot of the way they treat death and reverence. A lot of people in America would have a fucking problem with that. Like, at the grave scene when she's like, I want to suck your cock. Like that whole
Oh, yeah.
sequence. People wouldn't have been upset that there was a butt fuck sequence or that like there was tits.
They'd be like,
They'd be like-
sanctity
you can't.
sanctity of death.
Yeah.
It's like they're dead.
Because religious people, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this audience, like, you have to actively seek it out. So what you get is this kind of cool thing where people either like it or dislike it based on the merits of the show, not
Yeah.
on their feelings towards stuff.
If you don't like, you can just unsubscribe. Please don't unsubscribe.
Oh, I thought you meant to Amazon Prime.
I did mean that, but
You can also unsubscribe. Please don't. But if you're going to, leave a 5-star rating. No, look. What?
Does iTunes have subscriptions?
Yeah, you subscribe to a podcast.
Oh,
That's how you get it every week.
I didn't use iTunes. I use Pocket Casts
I use
on Android.
Overcast.
Overcast?
It's pretty legit. It's too legit to quit, bro.
Excuse me.
Oh, we went a whole episode without you birthing and you ruined it. Cut that out.
Yeah. Cut that out.
No, look, I'm keen to see more, and I think if we might revisit it if it does get good, or if it gets bad, we'll probably come back to it at some point.
If it gets good or bad, we'll come back to it.
Probably
at some
come back
point.
to it at some point.
At the end of the season, I guess.
Yeah. We've been taking suggestions in our Patreon feed this week for stuff you guys want to see us cover. So we've got some stuff that we're going to do coming up. Next
What
week,
is that, David? Because
next-
I don't know.
Next week we're doing John Wick. We've had this conversation.
Oh yeah, we have.
Next week we're doing
we are
John
doing
Wick.
John Wick.
So if you want to be ready for that, watch a film this week, and that'll come out next week.
Yeah, Ben, watch the film this week because I haven't seen
was
it
really,
yet.
Yeah, well, I was
was a bit
thinking more
subtle.
for the people at home.
I haven't seen it either.
Thanks to Uep Cummins, one of our top patrons.
Thanks, fam.
Jordan Corbo, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. The top patron.
Cordova.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't. What? You doing a joke?
It's being dumb.
And then Anonymous, also top patron. So thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
Like that light and that light.
Up there.
Good joke.
We've done that every time we've
Done that every
record one of
time.
these. But as always, Ben, where can people find us?
Facebook,
Yep.
Twitter,
Yep.
YouTube, like here.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do all kinds of weird shit. You might enjoy it.
None of it's good, but it's there.
Some of it is really good because I spent a lot of time on it. Thank you very much.
Patreon,
Yeah, patreon.com/DCMworks. You can join those other patrons.
Instagram,
Instagram, yes.
Redbubble,
Yeah, Redbubble. We've got some new t-shirts coming out. We're also gonna
Twitter.
maybe open a Teespring shop as well.
Another one.
Well, people have been like, people want to buy the shirts from the place they normally buy them from. So we might have like a
Right.
few stores that will open. We'll see what happens with that.
We can have like exclusive designs. That's not confirmed.
Well, there are exclusive
Probably
designs
not.
for patrons if you're a patron.
Oh, there we go.
I like that you have no idea how any of this works.
I don't follow
We're
this shit.
also on Twitter, which is at DCM_works. And if you are a patron, you get access to Open to Suggestion, which is our Patreon only show.
It's really good.
Actually, some of it is quite good.
None of
Again,
it's-
you're very negative
None of it's good.
this week. I feel like some of it's pretty good. There's pretty good episodes. One
There's like
is-
one.
2 episodes are great because Ben doesn't say much. So
What ones are those?
the end ones where I read you a story,
Oh
or
yeah.
just Spoopy Time.
I
story.
literally don't talk.
Yeah, they
for most of
they
that.
turn out quite well actually.
What? Because it's just you.
No, I did like a lot of editing.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it was a lot of work that went into this.
Okay.
But yeah, make sure you hit us on our socials, Patreon, if you want to get that exclusive content. Otherwise, thanks for listening / watching.
Bye.
No, I'm at DCM Hip Pie.
I'm at Little Citrus.
Crushed it.
Bye.
Worst ending ever.